We spend our lives making decisions without having all the facts. We trust a partner, we invest years into a career, or we commit to a religion, all without physical proof. To move forward at all, we have to operate on beliefs we cannot verify. This creates a constant risk. Without hard evidence, we have to wonder if our convictions are grounded in reality, or if we are simply convincing ourselves of what we want to hear. The early church thinker Tertullian framed this struggle by asking what Athens has to do with Jerusalem. Athens, represented here by the Parthenon, stands for the tradition of Greek philosophy, the rigorous demand for logic and empirical proof. Jerusalem represents the opposite domain, faith and revelation. This is a way of knowing that relies on trusting divine authority, accepting truths that the human mind cannot calculate on its own. When the demands of logic and the pull of conviction collide, we have to choose which one will guide our actions. For centuries, the most influential answer came from Thomas Aquinas, who claimed there was no conflict at all. He argued that faith and reason are two parallel, valid tools that lead us towards the same truth. This animated bridge represents what Aquinas called knowledge. It is an intellectual acceptance that is forced by evidence. When the logic is conclusive, your mind has no choice but to agree with the result. But because reason has limits, a second bridge appears. This is faith, a free choice to trust in divine revelation when the evidence of the world stops short of the full truth. However, this harmony contains a flaw. If reason eventually proves a claim, like a logical argument for the existence of God, the block bridge expands. As soon as a truth becomes a matter of proof, the choice to trust becomes redundant. Knowledge replaces faith. Aquinas' harmony only survives while reason is incomplete. When evidence compels the mind, the choice to believe vanishes. This logical dead end forced later thinkers to choose sides, sparking a direct confrontation over how we should act when the evidence runs out. In the 19th century, Søren Kierkegaard rejected the idea that reason and faith could walk side by side. He argued that reason is actually a threat to religious life. Kierkegaard warned that objective certainty is a danger that threatens to devour faith, as the shadow of proof eclipses the glowing spark of belief. He believed that uncertainty is the essential requirement for religion. If you can prove a supreme being exists, you no longer need faith to follow them. You are simply following the data. Because reason cannot provide a safety net for the most important questions, Kierkegaard argued we must take a leap of faith. It is a risky, passionate commitment made precisely because we cannot grasp God objectively. While this celebrates the courage of the believer, it removes any standard for truth. If we abandon reason entirely, we lose the only tool we have to distinguish between a profound spiritual truth and a dangerous delusion. This risk led William Clifford to a different conclusion. His philosophy of evidentialism treats blind faith as a vice that endangers society. Clifford illustrates this with a shipowner sending an old vessel to sea. He sees the splintering planks and has doubts, but suppresses those fears. He tells himself that Providence will protect the families on board. But when the ship sinks and the crew drowns, his sincere belief does not excuse him. Clifford argues the owner is guilty of their deaths. He had no right to believe it was safe without doing the work to prove it. From this tragedy, Clifford forms a strict moral rule. It is wrong always, everywhere, and for anyone to believe anything upon insufficient evidence. He warns that our beliefs are never private. Every time we accept a claim without proof, we weaken our self-control and our ability to weigh evidence. This credulous character infects our neighbors, making society a den of thieves where truth no longer matters. Clifford turns belief into a high-stakes duty. In his view, leaping into the dark without looking isn't a virtue. It is an unethical choice that threatens the progress of humanity. Shortly after Clifford published his rule, the American psychologist William James offered a different perspective. In this portrait, we see a thinker who argued that Clifford's demand for evidence was actually rooted in a crippling fear of being a dupe. James argued that we have two separate duties: to avoid error and to believe the truth. Clifford focused so much on avoiding mistakes that he forgot that finding the truth often requires taking a risk. Some truths only exist if we act on them before we have proof. If you wait for scientific evidence that a person will like you before meeting them halfway,
that friendship will never begin. Your initial faith is what creates the fact. There are moments where the evidence for and against a belief weigh exactly the same. As this scale shows, reason is paralyzed and cannot supply a tiebreaker. Clifford would tell you to wait for more light, but James points out that waiting is not a neutral act. Refusing to choose is, in practice, a choice to go without the truth, carrying the same risk as choosing no. James argued we can choose based on passion if it's a genuine option. First, it must be live, a real possibility. Second, it must be forced, no middle ground. Finally, it must be momentous. The stakes are high and irreversible. When a choice is live, forced, and momentous, and reason is silent, James claims we have the will to believe. We are permitted to let our emotions and needs decide the path. We cannot escape the pull of either logic or conviction. These two forces define how we move through the world. Whether we rigorously demand proof like Clifford, or take a risk based on passion like James, the responsibility for what we choose to hold as true remains our own.